Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us on the radio at icradio.media, where we are Fox News affiliates. And, you know, we are airing Christmas music 24/7. I would do that all year round, but I know you get tired of it after a while. I never get tired of Christmas music. I love it. You can also find us on television, channel 182, Charter Communications, and we are syndicated on Finance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on the newscasters.com. Continue sending emails, by the way. You can send those to Donna at donnasedge.com. Makes my day. When I look at my email and I get an email from you, you just don't know what that does. It's just so much. And you also give me new ideas and help me create better pathways for you. Speaking of better pathways, I've got Linda Hansen with me right now. Prosperity 101. There's so much to know about Prosperity 101, but fill us in. I know we've got other things we want to talk about, but what is Prosperity 101?
Prosperity 101 is something I started many years ago when I realized that business owners were telling me that if a business-friendly governor wasn't elected in our state, they would be leaving the state. Now, we've seen this happen more recently in droves from states like California and New York, things moving to more business-friendly states. Well, but what happens is that employees have no idea how much these policies affect their jobs. And so they go to voting booths every election and vote themselves right out of a job. And so years ago, I wrote my first book, developed a program for employers to share in the workplace, very nonpartisan, very basic, helping people understand the foundations of our prosperity, or our freedom is basically what our prosperity is about. And then the basic policies of that and how to protect your freedom and prosperity, your opportunity to thrive by becoming informed, involved, and impactful. So I have the book, I have the course, I have an online course that businesses can share in their workplace. I do speaking, I do events, and my whole goal with that is to empower employers to basically reawaken and re-educate all these people in the workplace who have come up through public education and public universities, and they haven't been taught to cherish what is so important about our system of government and what allows them to have freedom and prosperity. And so that's my heart. I've been involved in politics for a long time, and I love the Lord and want to serve him through all of this. And I feel this is just one of the things that he's called me to. And so I love serving people and would love to work with any of the businesses that are listening, because I believe there's millions of people out there who really need to understand how policy affects their paycheck.
Oh, definitely it does. If you don't understand the basic fundamentals, my granddads both were in the business world and were very successful with one of my granddads had a 6th grade education. The other one was a 9th grade education, but those guys had more common sense than anyone you would ever know. And so I was looking for my first job, and so not in my career choice field, but I just wanted a job, so I could take some classes in college and what have you. And so my granddad said, well, you might work as a hamburger flipper, but something, you need to be the best hamburger flipper they ever had. And I said, well, what's that got to do with it? I mean, why? And he said, you'd be amazed. He said, I've watched people not move up in a company because they do just the least they could get by with, nothing extra. And then I've seen people excel. Start out as a hamburger flipper. Before you knew it, they were managing the place. Absolutely. Then they were managing Phil's brother. Owned his own businesses for years. And so what Larry did is he thought he was going to retire. Well, he didn't want to retire. So Larry made the announcement he was going to work at McDonald's. And we were like, that would be a little beneath Larry, because he's had all these, jobs and all these. Kind of made me think when President Trump was working at McDonald's for a little bit. And he said, no, I can prove something to grandkids. And so he went there. Of course, they wanted him to move up in the company. Like really, really fast. You know why? Because he would go pick up a broom instead of just standing around, so he would find something to do. And he said, your day goes by faster if you just stay busy, not just sit around waiting on somebody to tell you the next thing to do. And I think that is a huge, huge point right there.
It is. And, you know, that work ethic is important too. And you talked about like flipping burgers and stuff. I've shared before, I think, with you that my family had restaurants when I was growing up. And I, you know, started working in them when we opened. And then before long, I was running and, you know, managing and supervising several restaurants and things. It was very good because I did it even at a young age in high school. So, but we had a phrase, if there's time to lean, there's time to clean. Because a restaurant always needs to be cleaned. And, you know, you see people waiting around for the customer to come in and we're like, no, if there's time to lean, there's time to clean. And I think about that at home. I mean, when I was raising all of our kids too, it's like, if there's time to lean, there's time to clean, you know, not that you have to be, you know, never relaxing when you're home, but it really taught me the basics of time management. So that's an important aspect about work that we need to help these young people understand too. And, you know, you talked about flipping burgers and starting small and stuff. One of our daughters sent me a meme the other day. It was so cute. It had a guy in his car banging on his steering wheel saying, and the caption was, this is what happens when your parents leave you a generational work ethic instead of generational wealth. And I told her, sorry, honey, we tried, you know, but I know then our oldest son, I was talking to him about that. And he said, you know, Mom, I'd rather have the work ethic because I can create the wealth. If I have the work ethic, you know, we can all create the wealth. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted, you know, that they, you know, with homeschooling, I wanted them to know how to learn and be able to learn and love learning and become lifelong learners. And that could take them anywhere. And then to have a strong work ethic. That's it's the skills needed to be able to succeed. And that is so lost. But not only has that been lost, but like you mentioned, common sense before too. And I feel like that's one of the things that I'm trying to do with Prosperity 101 is help employers be able to communicate to employees just these basic common sense principles that have just been so wiped away from our public education system, so wiped away from our culture and our media. And it just brings it in a gentle, nonpartisan way so it can open communication, but also just get people to thinking a little bit more.
I think that's your key on there. You know, we grew up in the business world. We grew up with, you know, my granddad's being in business, my parents were in business and that kind of thing. So we knew, but the toughest challenge is for someone who has never grown up in that environment where they're taught that the man is an evil person. Right. When that man is actually helping you I'm not talking about, you know, someone who is not taking care of their employees. I'm talking about they put their life out on the line. And a lot of times, especially in those early years, they're not even bringing home a salary and their employees are.
Right.
And they don't seem to understand that the person you work for, that company needs to make a profit.
Exactly.
And that's security for your job.
Exactly. You know, and I tell the story often about how one time when I was in like 10th grade, I think it was, and we had just opened another restaurant, like we had several, and we had just opened another one, and that one was still very early and hadn't quite gotten its legs yet. And I came home from school and my parents said, we need to talk to you. And they looked up at a beam in the ceiling of our house and said, you own that now. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they kind of looked sheepishly. They said, well, honey, we had to empty your savings account to pay payroll. And I was like, oh, you know, now they paid me back, you know, in time. The restaurant did well and eventually sold. I mean, it was a great thing. But that taught me a lot about what it takes to be an employer, to be able to provide wages and benefits for employees. And like you said, they often think that the employer just has it all together and has all the money, but actually they don't. And they don't realize also that regulation, taxation, legislation, you know, compliance fees, you know, all these rules and regulations just make it so hard for businesses. You know, every time the tax code changes, it's more expensive. So, you know, they don't realize what could really help business soar And, we saw a little bit of these policies being enacted and seeing what could really, really begin to happen during Trump's first term. And businesses were booming. Businesses were adding on. The Trump tax cuts were helping people. If you, as Dr. Art Laffer always says, if you tax something less, you get more of it. If you tax it, if you tax something less, you get more of it. If you tax it more, you get less of it. So you start overtaxing these businesses. I mean, they can't pay more for more jobs, more benefits. They just can't. And there's only so much money in the pie. And actually, it ends up being the consumers that pay. So it's just a important thing. And I think, too, that educating employees who have not been taught, like I spoke to a business group on Monday, and there were between 70 and 80 business leaders in that group. And only 4 had read the Bill of Rights in the last year. It was very interesting. And I asked them, how many people under 45 do you think have read the Bill of Rights in the past 5 or 10 years? And, several people spoke up and said, we don't think they've ever read it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And so I say, know what their rights are. How do they know if they're voting for someone who will protect them? So at this very basic level, it's very important. And as we see companies that are becoming unwoke, I like to say that I want to help companies go from woke to awake, right? But as companies are becoming unwoke, and like Walmart getting all their DEI and transgender stuff out of their human resources department, and even in some of their, infant clothing is not going to be transgender anymore.
That's a huge step.
Yeah, that's huge. Tractor Supply, John Deere. I mean, there's been all these companies to which I say, okay, you're taking something out. What do you replace it with? And so, I'd like to say any companies out there who'd like to replace their DEI or CRT or ESG programs and trainings, call me, please. Let's get my training into your workplace. It's very basic. It's very basic American civics. It doesn't tell anyone who to vote for. It just helps them understand these basic principles. And you talked before about like money too. What happens when the money runs out? People don't think about that because they think about the government being, this endless spigot of dollar bills, right? Well, that doesn't last too long before the company or the country really falters. And, we're teetering now. So they need to understand what happens. And they need to understand that sometimes these mandates, like a mandated higher minimum wage, are not exactly helpful in the long run. They need to understand. But my course, so for anybody listening, my course and my book really present these topics in such a way that it asks the people questions. It doesn't tell them what to think. It asks them questions, and then they can just kind of logically figure it out for themselves. It never tells them who to vote for, doesn't tell them what to think, but it opens up that communication and helps them figure it out for themselves. But I encourage employers, because when they've used this in the workplace, there's always better communication, which leads to loyalty, engagement, and retention. So it really does help your bottom line.
Loyalty is important. I mean, it's so important.
Yeah.
I know a family-owned business. Now, a lot of family-owned businesses, the parents start the business, and then later the kids come in and they just ruin it because they were never in the rough times when the parents were trying to make payroll and those kinds of things like you and I were.
Yeah.
And so there's a lady, actually a company called Couch's Jewelers, and they are in Anniston, Alabama. And I remember Mrs. Couch, who was pretty close to 80 years old then. Mrs. Couch actually came and spoke at our Rotary Club. And she kind of embarrassed her sons. And she said, you know something? She said, and she was Miss, just say it like it is. She is, and I love that about her. She was an awesome lady. And so she said, Fred and his brothers, they didn't understand. But we let them know when we were having a hard time meeting payroll. We thought that was real important that they do that. This is one family business that I can say the kids are running it just as smooth and the way it should be as the parents, because they involve those kids like your parents and my parents did.
Right. Exactly.
What do you think of the family-owned business where the mom and dad, they shelter their kids and they don't let them know, some of those basic things that are happening in the business?
I would really just like to encourage those family businesses to be more transparent with their family. Plan for the succession. Plan how, if you want that business to go on beyond your time running it, what's the succession plan? Excuse me. My father chose to sell the business and retire young at 52, which was great for him and for my mom, which is great because he then died at 72. So they had a beautiful time before he died at, a relatively young age nowadays. And so I'm so thankful he was able to do that. Had he not, I might be running restaurants. Who knows? But I'm so thankful for the opportunity that I had to learn it, and all the other businesses from the time, he was very entrepreneurial, and whether he was employed by someone or was running his own company at a time, he always included me somehow, even when I was little. Maybe I was just always interested because I was kind of nerdy like that, but I just felt like I was always learning, and he was a great teacher. And so for these family businesses, please, we're not doing them any service by not helping them understand the hard times. If people are raised with a silver spoon in their mouth, oftentimes it's mismanaged or it's gone. And we don't want to be that. We want to be families and companies that add value to our loved ones, add value to our communities, to our nation. And, that's really what we should be focused on.
We used to own 8 Nextel stores, the little beep beep phones.
Yeah.
And we owned those, had 8 locations in Alabama. So my son, while he was going to high school, was working for us.
Yeah.
And he tells me even now, he says, you and Phil were the hardest bosses I ever had. And he said, sometimes I feel like you picked on me. And I said, well, we kind of did.
We did. Yeah, I know.
We wanted you to be very, not in an over abusive way, but I'm just saying we didn't shelter him from anything.
Right.
I wanted him to know the basics. And I think that's what's made him successful in life. So when it's just little things will trickle on to more successes. Because of that, he and my beautiful daughter-in-law had set a goal to have their house paid off, live in a townhouse in Raleigh, North Carolina, to have that paid off before their 10th wedding anniversary.
Wonderful.
And they did.
It's great. The little lessons you learn. And I think about all the things my dad even taught me about management or about marketing or, all the different things that he taught me about being in business, being a respected business owner. I love it when maybe something comes up on social media and someone else that I don't even know posted a picture of our restaurant, which closed, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, right? 40 years, I can't remember what year they sold, but I'd have to think about it. But I love it. Here's these pictures from the 70s and early 80s where they've, still showing our restaurant and it was a favorite place, or somebody talks about how that was their first job and what they learned there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my dad would be so happy, but there's something about it. And that going back to the policies, we have the policies of opportunity in America. So it isn't just prosperity in the sense of money. It is human flourishing and freedom, and opportunity is what I talk about in all of my work, whether it's the online course or the book. We had the opportunity and the freedom to create those restaurants. You had the opportunity and freedom to own those Nextel stores, right? You have the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, and praise God for entrepreneurs. Think of everything that we have in our homes, our businesses that we use every day. It all came from somebody's idea, and they were an entrepreneur. And, one thing leads to another. Even the big businesses that, we think of being just these, almost as big as the government, they start with an entrepreneur, and it's amazing to me. So I don't think it can happen in every other nation the way it does here.
No,
That's
not like
something I want to protect. That's something I work to protect.
And I appreciate your doing that. Let's talk a little bit to customers, because sometimes they don't understand, especially since COVID, and it seems to be difficult to find employees to work for a company. And let's talk about restaurants, because that was your background. How would your dad have handled things now, past COVID, where you can't find employees and you've got all these people doing 10 jobs, and we have to have more patience when we go to a sit-down restaurant?
Well, my dad, ours were like upscale fast food. Okay, so but we had tables, everything. I don't think I can repeat what he would have said.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he was not one. I mean, yeah, he would. I don't think he would have bended to the whims of the.
No.
I don't think he would have. I think that my dad would have stood up. He would have been one of the ones who said, no, this is ridiculous. But he would have taken time to explain it to his employees. Mm-hmm. He would have. And I really appreciate, while he was very stern at times, and, to some people, he was a little scary here and there, but he was a teddy bear deep inside. And he really wanted to make sure the employees understood and they were part of this team. So he would be very open with employees about what was needed, and I think he would have explained to them why we weren't closing down or whatever. And I think he would have been a bold leader. So and that's part of where I get mine from.
I can tell. I mean, you and I came from the same person. I mean, basically, because and that's why I used to laugh when people would talk about Trump being so rude and so blah blah blah. And we're from the South. We're not from New York.
Right.
But it very much reminds me of my dad. I mean, where he would just say plain what it is.
Yeah.
Nobody had to guess at anything. I mean, he just said this is the way it is. And so some people would say, why are you voting for him? He's so rude. He's so rude. And I'm going, I don't think he's rude at all. And they would say, you don't? And I'd say, no, he reminds me of my dad, actually.
Well, we've gotten back into, this whole entitlement society, and everybody's concerned about feelings.
Get their feelings hurt.
Like, it's just kind of ridiculous to me. It's like you can, one person can say something and, three people will take it three different ways, right? And so, and in our culture right now, it's, goodness gracious, we have safe spaces for people who can't handle what happened with the election outcomes. We have, I know I live in Wisconsin, and recently there was this Primal Scream Day. I don't know if you saw that. There were women. It was a big event on the shores of Lake Michigan that women gathered for a primal scream to show their resentment and their anger and frustration over Donald Trump being reelected. And it's like, so this is helpful. I just
got a question about that.
Yes.
Did you have your primal scream when men were competing with our daughters?
Exactly.
What was your primal scream then?
One thing about it. They only see one thing. They don't see, their safety has been impacted in the last 4 years. Their privacy has been impacted. Their economy has been impacted. I mean, there's so many things, and it's just almost like they get whipped up into this emotion. And, going back to what I'm trying to do with everything I do is, let's get the emotion out of it. And let's look at some basic things here, some things that we can all agree on. And with my book, with my course, it's basic things that I think even those primal women would say, oh, well, this actually makes sense, right? And I've heard that again and again from people who, were maybe more liberal than me, or just weren't engaged, and then they engage with my material. And I so often get the comment, I never thought about it like that. Or, and my favorite story to tell is when I was in a business giving a workshop one time, and there was a gentleman who did not want to be there, and he was very upset about the whole concept, and he was rather intimidating. He was very close, very angry to even be in the room. And as I presented, his body language opened up. And at the end, he said, if those policies up there that you're talking about make it hard for Jim over here to pay my paycheck and my benefits, why do I want to vote for someone who supports those policies? Mm-hmm. To which I wanted to jump up and down and say, hello, that's what I'm talking about. That it's so far beyond party. It's so far beyond personality. I tell people now that what I'm trying to help people understand is this isn't about Donald Trump. He will be out of office in 4 years, providing he actually gets inaugurated, right? But he will be out of office. He will be a past president. The enormity of the effect of policies of the last 4 years, mm-hmm. or the policies that we can bring in the next 4 years. I mean, these are generational shifts. So like I mentioned, I was speaking to this men's group the other day, this business group. And I said, I'm not talking about policies just for the next 4 years. This is not about Donald Trump. This is about the next 24 years, the next 54 years, the next 104 years. Like, how do we make sure that we protect this system of government while not perfect? And especially when imperfect people are involved running anything, there'll be imperfection, mm-hmm. right? But we do have the safeguards, we have the checks and balances, and eventually the
something I remember years and years ago when my grandparents were talking about the me generation. This has happened in the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
And I remember my granddad saying that's going to be a downward slope.
Yes.
When it starts being all about you, you're the center of the universe and all those things, that's going to be bad for business.
Right.
Why do you think he said that?
Well, you can start to see that because in a company, in a country, in a family, it takes teamwork. When it becomes so inward focused that it's all about you and you can't look at the other person's point of view, you can't even have a rational conversation, it's not helpful, and it creates division. The division that's happening in our nation now, and the division that is intentionally spurring on division between families and friends based on who they voted for. I mean, we're seeing it all over the country, right? And that is intentional, and it is meant to divide so that, united we stand, divided we fall, whether we're a family, a country, or, a business. So, united we stand, divided we fall.
I mean, it's perfect. And I get what he meant now, but at that time I thought he's being a little harsh about that.
Yeah.
What is he talking about?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We can look at balance. I think, we can look back into, the 50s or 40s, and it didn't necessarily focus on the health of the individual as much. And you look back, I can see where women would say, well, I don't want to go back to that, because sometimes there was that whole codependent thing. The man was, you got it all mixed up in terms of, what's really healthy in a marriage relationship, what's really healthy in a parenting relationship. And, hopefully as generations continue, hopefully we improve on what our parents did. We're still going to make mistakes, right? We're still going to mess up. We're imperfect. We can never be perfect, but hopefully we learn. And when the pendulum swings too far one way or the other, hopefully we have that common sense to bring it back and to fight to bring it back to a more sane playing field, and something where people can really be respected and valued, and they can have logical, rational discourse without screaming or yelling or accusing people of being racist or abusers or anything else. So it's really a hard time in America's history, but I'm hoping that there will be a shift, because I do believe that the new administration coming in and the people that are coming in with the administration, there's going to be, a turnover in Washington, D.C. Oh, yeah. And there's also a spiritual revival that is bubbling up and happening. And my prayer is that an entirely different kind of spirit comes upon the nation. I often talk about taking back the mountains of culture. And on my website, I have, a flag on a mountain, and I talk about the 7 mountains of culture. And we need to take back that culture of government and take back that culture of business, take it back. And I don't mean that everybody has to think like we do. We don't always have to be in lockstep agreement or anything, but we have to have a culture of respect. And no matter how many people criticize it, that Judeo-Christian background that influenced our founding fathers and those who penned the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, those Judeo-Christian principles are what catapulted America into the land of the free and the home of the brave, and really provided that light of truth and freedom for the world. And, but did we make everyone become a Christian? No. No. We allowed for freedom of religion more than any other nation.
Absolutely, we did.
Yeah. So it's important that we go back to our roots, and I pray that we can shift the conversation, shift the spirit, and this involves prayer. This is going to be. So I just beg your listeners, be in prayer for our nation, be in prayer for our incoming President Trump, and all the people around him, and be in prayer for the media. Because there's so many in the media who just twist truth, and it's so damaging to not only our nation as a whole, to these people who have been taught to believe themselves as victims. So then you end up with a victim and an oppressor, and that's a division, and it's not necessarily that there's victims and oppressors. Now it's just this big narrative that's been pushed. And so we need to pray for revival in the media, revival in all these mountains of culture, revival. And we need to pray that really a new spirit of awakening.
Well, I wanted to mention this too. We have to go into a commercial break, but one thing that's really important is how we view ourselves. If we think we're downtrodden, and if we think that, it's because I'm purple, pink polka dot, or, whatever, aren't you actually giving power over to the oppressors when that's the only thing you can work on, when that's it? Now, and I'm not saying that. I have a lot of Black friends who hate that narrative.
Right.
And they've worked really hard, and they've been very successful all their life. And it just makes them mad to no end. I mean, they're just like, I wish people would stop that.
Well, when we come back from the break, let's talk about that more, because, Robbie Starbuck has been doing an incredible job of getting these companies to switch away from DEI programs and stuff. And there was just a fascinating and encouraging video montage of a bunch of Black men. And I think there were some women in it too, but who were applauding the work, applauding the fact that Walmart was getting rid of DEI. They said, we don't want to be judged by the color of our skin. We don't want jobs by the color of our skin. Reverse racism is racism. And it was so refreshing. So we can talk more about that after the break.
Let's do that. We'll be right back in just a few minutes, folks. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain-fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, Where Truth Matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. And Linda Hansen likes to ride home with you in the afternoon as well. I just wanted to ask you, so you actually ran a presidential campaign for Herman Cain. What would Herman Cain be saying right now about Trump winning? Would he have been surprised?
Oh, no, he wouldn't have been surprised at all. He would have been thrilled. I wish he was around to be working with Donald Trump. I'm sure they were friends, and he talked to Donald Trump, a lot. And so I am just, I know he'd be thrilled. He'd be absolutely thrilled because he knew the pulse of the people. This was one of the things about when we were doing the Herman Cain campaign. Like, this is why I was one of two people, I and the gentleman who became the chief of staff, Mark, we went to Herman Cain long before the announcement and said, America wants a Herman Cain. We think you should run for president, and we can take you to number one. And, he had a Senate campaign before, and he had a radio show. And I had been on several stages with him, speaking at events and things. And I watched how people were responding to him. I watched, we just could feel the pulse of the people. That's all I can say is we could feel the pulse of the people. And so that's why we suggested to Herman Cain he run for president, and we said, please, we can take you to number one. And at his first comment was, you guys are crazy. I said, I know we are, sir, but we can take you to number one. And we did. And we held him there for like 6 weeks in the primary until he started polling ahead of Obama. And, of course, you can't have a Black conservative polling ahead of Obama, especially back then. And we didn't have Twitter, and we didn't have Trump's money. So it was hard to overcome all the attacks and stuff. And people still tell me they remember when he dropped out, because they felt like, it was almost like the day Kennedy died. A lot of people told me that they were just so brokenhearted, because he represented the people. Herman Cain understood. Yeah. And his birthday is coming up pretty soon too. So, but Herman Cain understood the people and could connect with them, and Donald Trump understands the people and can connect with them. And I think he would be beyond thrilled to see what has happened, because he wrote a book too, They Think You're Stupid. I think that's the title of it. And he would, he was a little blunt sometimes, but he'd say, stupid people are running this country. You can just
That's what we're all saying. Stupid people are running the country.
And but that was then. Think about it. He could see what was coming if we didn't right the ship. And but he could also hear and understand. We were organized down to the precinct level in 50 states. So while the establishment politicians and media pundits were saying they don't know what they're doing and stuff, we were watching what was happening. Like literally, I traveled all over the country with him, right? And we would be at an airport, and some minority young 25-year-old TSA agent would stop what he was doing and hop over 3 lanes to get to him. And Mr. Cain, you're my man. And we knew, we had that minority vote. We had the Hispanic vote, growing. It was phenomenal. It was a movement. We were Trump before Trump, really. And then, unfortunately, he didn't make it to the White House. We ended up with all the years in between. But we knew the pulse of the people. And the people wanted what is happening now. They want the people to be in charge. They don't want this establishment government. They don't want this deep state. They don't want all the woke crap. They just don't want it. They want to get back to business, back to be able to raise their families, back to get government out of the way, and back to getting some people with common sense in charge. We actually have a booklet. I don't know if I have one right here handy to show you, but maybe on the next time I'm on, I'll show you. And I was honored to, write it with him and be the, editor and everything with it. But it's Common Sense Solutions, and it's just common sense solutions. It's a little booklet. It's common sense for how to run government. And so I think Herman Cain would be thrilled at what's happening, because he sees common sense returning to the narrative.
How do you feel about some of the folks President Trump is bringing into his cabinet?
Some of them I really love. There are a few that I have some questions about. I love Robert F. Kennedy. I just love that pick. He and I don't agree on everything over the years, but, and, I don't always agree with myself over the years, so whatever. But
Same here.
Yeah, but I think he is just going to be fantastic for helping America be healthy again, make America healthy again. And the chemtrails that we're all seeing in the skies, knowing we're being poisoned, our food supply, helping make sure we don't have China buying up all our farmland. These things, our food and water and are so critically important in helping people understand, get big pharma out of the way, get big pharma out of the way and learn how to take care of your health. And I think that's just incredible. So that's one of my favorite picks. I absolutely love Kash Patel. He's going to take no prisoners. This guy is on a mission to clean up, and he knows he knows what's lurking underneath, and he will get it out. And of course, so they'll fight so hard to get him out of there, and or to not allow him to be approved. And same with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., because he's going to upset big pharma. And then right now they're going after Pete Hegseth, because, you know, the military industrial complex and all the big defense contractors and the consultants and lobbyists who are part of the military industrial complex, you know, they don't want that. And so I would say, you know, don't listen to the lies. Like all this stuff that comes up about all these people, like amazingly enough, when they start to have headway and it looks like they might have some power and authority to clean up the rot in government, you know, then there's all these accusations and things that come out. And I just want to tell people, don't buy into it. You know, don't buy into it. You know, I absolutely love what's happening with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy getting, you know, Doge, you know, Department of Government Efficiency. Like, hallelujah. You know?
It's about time.
Yeah, it is. And this is one of the things you asked what Herman Cain would be. I mean, he would be on that. He would be helping that. I'm confident. He would be first in line to say, I will help you. Because honestly, that's part of what made him famous. He was able to turn around Godfather's Pizza. He was able to turn around Burger King. He was a turnaround guy. And that's what we need. We need turnaround people in government to put this back on the right track. And yeah, so I love that. I am personally not thrilled with his Surgeon General pick. I am not. I don't, unless she's had a change of heart. I feel she went along with too much of the COVID narrative and all the lies and all the just the deception of that. I'm concerned about that one. Yeah, I love Tom Homan. The borders are. I've actually interviewed Tom Homan on my podcast. And he is just a no holds barred. He's going to clean up the mess. And, you know, they talk about Trump bringing in, you know, his favorites or these people loyal to Trump. And, you know, well, one, why would you bring someone who's...
Well, a liberal is not going to be loyal to Trump.
I know.
That's an oxymoron.
But if you look at Tom Homan's career, it has spanned decades, and he has worked under several presidents. He is someone who understands the border. He understands the cartels. He understands, you know, the crime and recklessness at the border. He has seen it happen, and he has had his heart broken with what he's seen with child trafficking and all of this. So it's absolutely incredible that he would, you know, be accused as being like this loyalist to Trump. It's like, no, he has served in how many different administrations, you know, decades of serving, and he has the wisdom and experience. So, you know, everybody call your senators and say these people need to be confirmed. Besides that, one thing I'd like to say about Donald Trump's picks, even if I may not agree with some, you know, the country gave Donald Trump a mandate. You look at that map, okay? He has a mandate. He has been elected. And the country, the voters, we the people said, we want Donald Trump. We trust you to turn this around. And so, you know, part of me is like, you know, I don't know every behind the scenes conversation. So while I can express an opinion, say about Janet Neshwa, who, you know, is the Surgeon General pick, and that, I mean, she's not my first choice, I'll tell you, but maybe there's facts I don't know. And I can look and say, you know, Donald Trump, in my mind, has a history of being able to create good policy, to bring good people in. Now, did he have mistakes in hiring in his first term? Yes. But I also think he learned a lot. Yeah, he learned a lot, and his staff, I mean, so I would say for me, even some of these ones that I'm not jumping up and down about, I'd say, you know, trust but verify. And, you know, that the truth will come out. But the people he's had so far that are really the hard hitters, you know, he means business about cleaning up government. He means business about rooting out the corruption. And, you know, if Donald Trump can get business to running like the Trump organization, People would often tell me, oh, he's crazy, especially when he ran the first time. He was the favored son when he was the big billionaire, right? But he runs for president and all of a sudden the guy's lost his mind or something, or he's crazy or he's incapable. And I'm like, I'd like to be as insane and incapable as him.
I think I would too.
Yeah, I've got businesses and golf courses and, all these things with my name on them all over the world. And, I'm like, I'd like to be that insane,
Well, if I'm looking for a CEO for my company to run it, it's going to be a Donald Trump.
No kidding.
Not the last press person we just had as president, but Joe Biden.
He doesn't even know he's president. So
Kamala Harris I would never hire her to run my company.
Right. And so, you look at this and the government is a big business. It's big business and we have to run it like a business. And the taxpayers deserve to have their money spent responsibly. But taxpayers, you are the listeners. We're talking to you, listeners. Now we're talking to you. That when they say the government's going to pay for it, it means, oh, wait, that means I'm paying for it. You're paying for it, And right now, like before we were recording, we were talking about how Joe Biden just said he's going to send all this money over to African nations for, disaster relief. We're like, what about North Carolina? What about Kentucky? What about Florida? There's people still suffering 2 years later after Ian in Florida. Like, And think about these people in these areas that are just so hard hit by natural disasters, or it's just heartbreaking to me. We're sending our money to Ukraine. We're sending our money somewhere else. This is American taxpayer money. So listeners, these are policies that affect your paychecks.
Now, you've been a lot deeper into this kind of thing than I ever have because you ran a campaign for Herman Cain. My question is this. Okay, is there not a way we can actually say, okay, when you give money to Ukraine, you're the president of the United States, can we not see how that money filters through? It's got to be going into pockets of people we know.
Wouldn't you think we could see how that money filters through? In a perfect world, it should be transparent. We should have an audit. We should, look at the Pentagon. They failed their audit. They can't produce it. It's like 7, 8.
Okay, I worked for GTE. What do you think would have had they failed their audit? We would have all been out of jobs.
Exactly. Think of a bank. They can't fail their audits, right? This is insane. But, it's all the government doublespeak. It's the media cover-ups. It's all the payoffs in back rooms. It's the bribes. It's the military industrial complex. We have to clean house. And, not only do we have to clean house by getting illegals out and deported, okay, which is going to be a big task, but it's doable. And of course, Trump is going to be painted as this racist. And it's just going to be a media nightmare, but it has to be done for the.
But who is really listening to the media right now? I think people are looking for podcasts like mine and yours right now.
I think so too. But they have to see that it will be better. And we're not anti-immigrant. We're saying come in through the legal front door, right?
My daughter-in-law is from Russia. She's the best thing that ever happened to my family.
Right. And so, but it's also with cutting government spending. If you have a cut in the Veterans Administration, it'll be like, oh my gosh, he doesn't care about veterans. It's like, well, maybe no, there's a cut over here in this part, so we can spend it more responsibly over here in this part.
Responsibility.
Veterans what they need, right? Or maybe we don't spend all this ridiculous, stupid money on, government programs that don't need to be there. Or, everybody knows about them, right? So let's get rid of that. We can cut the waste and the inefficiencies, yes, but we need to cut the corruption. And I think the government also has become so bloated with too many employees. And, if you have not enough money going in to pay for the people who are getting paid, eventually this is unsustainable. And I think America, Argentina, the president in Argentina has been doing a great job turning their economy around. He's very Trump-like. He's very, like, I'm going to come in here and get this done. We're going to, take care of government overspending. We're going to take care of inflation. And it's been incredible what's been happening in Argentina. So, we can take a lesson from that. And, but he's faced backlash and everything for it, but we can turn this around, but it's going to make some hard choices. It's just like anything,
Not going to be popular choices, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I care about the long run and how things work out. So let me ask you a question too, because President Trump is making some decisions that sounds a little flat tax or fair tax like. And I'll use one example, would be Social Security. No tax and that kind of thing. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think because if you had that, I mean, we would have no IRS. I can't think of a business who wouldn't love that idea.
Love it. And, when Herman Cain was running, our tax plan was 999. People remember it. It was great. And I still have people every day telling me, boy, I sure wish we had 999. Our country would be better. Our economy would be more robust and people would have more money in their pockets. Businesses would be able to flourish more, right? Well, if you don't tax something, you get more of it, right? And so I love this. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. How beautiful is that? And I think we can get rid of the IRS. I mean, there's other ways to do this. And people are very, the leftists are crying, and even some of the establishment Republicans, especially, you start following the money and it's, what about tariffs? Always going to have all these tariffs. It's going to be terrible. No, it's going to be great. It's just like, when Trump came in and he started changing some of our trade deals, free trade can be good, but it needs to be fair trade. We have had such a trade imbalance. We've had such a tariff imbalance, such an economic imbalance in all of our economic relationships with other countries for so many years. There's no reason America should be the pocketbook of the world. America first. Doesn't mean America only. It just means America first.
Well, everything else just bleeds over for prosperity for other countries. If we're the superpower,
right?
And if you actually have people in government, you have a president of the United States who loves the country, that's even more. Less than 2 minutes left in this segment. What would you like to say before we go? That's a quick hour.
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you to you for having me back as a regular guest. I really appreciate it. And thank you to your listeners. I'd love to connect with your listeners. So, listeners, please email Donna, of course, but also you can reach me at prosperity101.com, prosperity101.com. And it would be an honor and a pleasure to work with you and your companies to help educate your employees. I have my book, prosperity101.com, or Prosperity 101 Job Security Through Business Prosperity, the essential guide to understanding how policy affects your paycheck. And that this and the course that I have that you can license in your workplace and share. If you're a homeschool family, I'd love to talk to you too. Let's share it in your homeschool family or your homeschool group. But honestly, I'd love to work with you all. Let's get these messages out into mainstream more, and let's replace woke with awake. And so as these companies are leaving the DEI behind and letting DEI die, right? Then please let's replace it. Let's fill that void with nonpartisan, pro-America information that can help them understand how policy affects their paycheck. So I'd love to work with everyone, and so please, contact.
Absolutely. Well, Linda, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for everything you've done and you're going to do. I know it's going to be very successful. And thank you guys so much for watching Donna's Edge on ISZ Radio. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. See you a little bit later. You guys have a great rest of the day.